Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for joining us for Live with Jennifer Bailey. We have Wesley Davis here. He is our property appraiser for Indian River County. Thank you, Wesley, for joining us today and agreeing to come in here and answer all of our questions for us. Really appreciate that.
My pleasure. My pleasure.
Thank you. So I'm going to just jump straight in and we'll get started. And you can add anything you want in here. If you want me to go to a website or anything like that, I'd be happy to do that. And we'll try to answer everybody's questions.
Sounds great. Looking forward to it.
So the first question we got was, what is homestead?
Okay. Basically, what homestead is it's a state law. A statute that allows you to take a piece of property that has a home on it or that you live at and to get some additional benefits specifically on the assessment of your property that can save you money on your taxes. And so if you want to, on the I have on one of my YouTube tutorials, I've got my helping hand that might be a good time to look at the first one of those. It's the what is the homestead exemption, the one on the very far right. And if you want to go ahead and play that one right there. Yep.
Perfect.
Let's start from the beginning. There you go.
Oh. There we go. We'll start it over and make it big.
I'm Wesley Davis, Indian River County property appraiser. We live in an amazing county, and our property values reflect that. Thankfully, the state of Florida has some homestead exemption laws.
Can you turn it up a little bit?
And to help explain that, here's what we need.
It's 1934, and the country is in the grips of the Great Depression. Floridians are losing their homes because they can't pay their property taxes. So the legislature put the homestead exemption amendment on the ballot, and the voters overwhelmingly approved it, giving homeowners a break on the first $5,000 of their home value, a significant amount, considering the median home value in Florida in 1940 was $2,218. In fact, you can buy all the materials and plans from Sears Roebuck and build your own 3-bedroom bungalow for $774. Today, the amount you could be taxed on could be up to $50,000 less than the assessed value of your home. In addition, voters also passed an amendment called Save Our Homes, which limits the rate assessed value can increase. The best part is it's affordable. When you sell your home and buy a new one, you can transfer your benefits. Who says you can't take it with you? Look at it this way. In the past 5 years, Florida home values have increased at a rate of almost 9% on average. While in that same period, the average cap for assessed value increases was about 1.4%. Simply put, the homestead exemption and Save Our Homes mean big tax savings for Florida residents. And the only requirements are that the property must be your primary home, and you must be a Florida resident as of January 1st. There are also more exceptions available for some low-income seniors, disabled veterans, and Florida first responders, deployed military, widowed residents, and disabled residents. So talk to your property appraiser to learn more about the specifics. The deadline to apply is March 1st, and here's how you do it. For the homestead exemption, you'll need your Florida voter's registration card, Florida driver's license, Florida car registration, utility bill, social security number, and if the home is in a trust, a copy of that trust. Everything must be obtained before January 1st, since the purpose is to show you've lived there prior to that date.
And remember, all the information that we need needs to prove that you lived in your house prior to January 1st of that year. So you can go online and fill out the application. You can come into our office at any one of our 3 different locations. And when you do, come in and say, Wesley said.
So that's basically the homestead. And the important thing about that really is the cap that it puts on the assessed value of your property. And that assessed value can only go up by 3% or the consumer price index, whichever is less. So that's really a beneficial to very, very, very beneficial to a home buyer that lives in the state of Florida, and it's very valuable for the realtors in this community to make sure that they know that their sellers and buyers know that to make sure they file for their homestead.
Great. And how do I apply for homestead?
Well, you can go to our website again, and you can do it online. That's the easiest way. Of course, you can always come in person, but during these times right now, if we can limit the number of people that could potentially get sick out there, we'd like to. So just scroll down to the bottom of the website, and then right there, the button where it says file the homestead, click on that button, and it'll pop up, and just click on the proceed right there. And there's the application, and fill that information out, and then you just need to make sure that you do it by March 1st.
Fantastic. All right, another question from our guest is, what exemptions do I qualify for besides homestead? I recently sold a home. Does that provide me any additional savings and taxes on my new property?
It can, yes. And in fact, if you want to go back now to the website and the homestead application, there's several questions that we ask as you scroll down through there. Specifically, the ones right, keep going right there. Stop. Go right. Go up a little bit. More. We ask for your previous address, and the reason why we ask for your previous address, that does one thing. That right there will tell us that if your previous address was in the state of Florida, you may be eligible for portability. And portability can substantially save you some money because you're able to take some of the deferred, the difference between the market value and the assessed value, and you're able to take that to your new home. And that's the reason why we ask that question is, where do you live? Because if it's Florida, we want to make sure you can take advantage of that. In addition to that, if you go ahead now and scroll down, there are numerous right here. Look at all these, all the different exemptions. You can, if you're widowed, if you're blind, if you're permanently disabled, if you get veterans discount, 65 and older. If you're a 100% disabled veteran, you're 100% exempt from any property ad valorem taxes. If you're the survivor of a first responder who died in the active duty, 100%. So a lot of people don't know how many exemptions that are out there that they could be entitled to. And I want to thank you for doing this today, because if I can find one person that served our country that is 100% disabled, I want to see to it that he gets the exemption that he's entitled to or she's entitled to.
Great, that's great information. Thank you. There's a lot of different things we can pick there. Easy too to file for online.
Yes, it is.
The next question we have from our people here is, I bought my house last year and my taxes went up. Now I have an escrow shortage. Why did you raise my taxes?
The property appraiser does not raise your taxes. I promise you that. All I do is put a value on every piece of property in any River County, and I try to do it fair. And that's my goal, as well as giving good customer service. But what happens is, whenever people see a big change in the property tax bill from the previous owner to theirs, chances are the property that they bought had been homesteaded for a long period of time. And that homestead property, keep in mind, that tax bill was held artificially, the assessment was held artificially low because of Save Our Homes. It didn't go up, but only 3% or the consumer price index, whichever is less. Whenever that property changes hands, let's suppose that you bought it this time of year. You get the benefits of the former owner's low tax bill based on his low assessment, based on the fact that he had it homesteaded. That will reset January 1st the following year, and it'll reset closer to the price that you purchased it, which is it'll be reset closer to market, the market value. The only way you can help soften that a little bit is to homestead the property, and you get your $50,000 homestead exemption. And then if you have any portability that you can move to that, that's the only way that you can really take advantage of the same thing that the former property owner had. So I didn't raise your taxes. What it is you got the benefit of the former owner of the property who had the property homesteaded for a long period of time.
Oh, okay. That's really interesting. Good information. Thanks. The next question we have from our viewers is, why are taxes so different for everyone? When I'm looking for homes to buy, the taxes are very low for some houses and high on others.
This would be another good opportunity for another one of our YouTube tutorials. This is the one with Merrill in it. So we'll start with that. If you want to go ahead and play the first one right there. And start it from the beginning where we look at them.
Start it from the beginning. Okay.
There you go. I think you got to push play.
Oh, it's going around a little bit. Okay, we'll start again. These are the great things about going live, right?
There we go.
We'll keep trying.
Okay.
This is I've seen this video and it's really good. So.
And I get
Oh.
Hi, I'm in.
Is this the right one?
Yes.
Okay. Okay.
Why are my neighbor's taxes lower than mine? And to help answer that, let's meet Carol and sisters.
Meet Carol and her sister Cheryl and her other sister Meryl. They have similar taste in almost everything. So when Carol moved into a townhome in a lovely community in Mockingbird Shores, Cheryl and Meryl eventually joined her there. What her sisters don't share is the same property tax amount, and like many Floridians, they want to know why. The answer: save our homes and portability. Property taxes are based on the assessed value of the home. Carol, Cheryl, and Meryl's townhomes all have different assessed values, even though their market values are the same. Carol bought her townhome in 2006. A couple of years later, the financial crisis hit, and her home's value sunk almost half of what she paid for it. Eventually, the value started to rise again and returned to pre-crisis numbers. Thanks to the Save Our Homes cap, Carol's assessed value increased by no more than 3% a year, even though the market value increased by double-digit rates. Cheryl bought her townhome in 2015 for about the same price that Carol paid. Cheryl had already owned the Florida homestead for several years before that, accumulating a significant amount of Save Our Home savings. Because Florida law allows portability, she transferred that savings to the new home. She started with a much higher market value than Carol, but after the ported savings were deducted, their assessed values were about the same. Then there's Meryl. Meryl also bought her home in 2015 for the same price as Cheryl. The same model, same year, same price. But she didn't have Save Our Home savings to transfer. So her taxes were based on a higher assessment than her sisters. Don't feel too bad for Meryl. She regularly takes both her sisters' money at the card table. And as long as she owns her homestead, she'll benefit from the Save Our Home's cap and portability. If she ever decides to move. But why would she do that?
So now you understand a little bit about Save Our Homes, portability, and homestead exemptions. And if you have any other questions, please stop by any of our offices and tell me. Wesley said.
What a great video. That's very helpful.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Those were a lot of fun to put together, and they were based on basically the frequently asked questions, just like your realtor friends and friends here have asked. We like to kind of put a little humor in it, and as well as be as educationally as possible.
That's super fun. So that actually goes right into the next question, like how does portability work?
Okay. What portability is the difference between market value and assessed value. So after you homestead a property for several years, your assessed value, remember, is held artificially low because of the Save Our Homes. But that doesn't stop what the market may do. The market can go up and down, and in today's market, obviously, it's going up. So if you have a market value of $500,000, but your assessed value is $200,000, the difference between those two, or let's just say $250,000 for easy math here, is $250,000. So in the event that you sell your home and you homestead your new home, then and if the value of the home is more than the value of the home, the market value is more than the market value of the home that you sold, then you can port 100% of that with you, up to $500,000. Now keep in mind that's only if it's more. If the house is less, you can only port the percentage amount of that to the new property. So if the property is 50% less, if the market value is 50% less of the home that you're leaving from, then you can only port 50% of your portability that you've accumulated over the years to the new property. So, and keep in mind also, if there are properties out there that may have, I've seen them as high as $5 million worth of portability, but whenever they sell their home and move into a new one, they can only port $500,000 of that portability with them if it's a more expensive house.
Oh, great. And if they have more questions about that, they can always contact your office.
Absolutely. You can call me at 226-1480.
Nice.
Yep.
Here's another interesting question from our viewers. Why doesn't all the permits show on the property appraiser's website?
Well, if there's a permit pulled, it should. If for example, if you get a roof and your contractor did in fact pull the permit, it should. And if it didn't, there's two things. Sometimes we make a mistake and sometimes it gets missed. Other times the contractor might not have pulled the permit. And so you really, that information on our website is extremely important, especially for those in the real estate community like yourself. Because if you see where a permit is pulled, that may show, but it doesn't show a date when it's closed out, that means you have an open permit. And when it comes time for closing, that could be very costly for the buyer or the seller, whoever y'all negotiate that out. But more importantly, it'll really mess up your closing whenever you're ready to pick up a commission check.
Yes, sure will. All right, thank you. The next question we have is, what do we do when the information on the site is wrong? Like it says frame and it's really concrete block, or like the square footage is wrong.
Well, there's like, again, we want to know about it. Let me show you how to do it. If you would go to my website, and then just type in any address up in the quick search up there. And remember, whenever you're typing this in, less is more. So if you, instead of typing out 1875 34th Court Southwest, Vero Beach, Florida kind of thing, you see how you partially entered in the information right there? And now that you have the tendency for it to be, it might bring up 2 or 3 for you to look at, but at least it won't bring up none are found. So click on that. And can you make that a little bit bigger, or can they see it? Okay, I don't know how big it is. And there you go. Okay, and then scroll down to the bottom of that card and see where it says report discrepancy right there. If you click on that, it'll bring it right to it. We know the parcel ID. We'll get your name and email address, and you can tell us what it is. You can say that Mary Smith and Mary Smith at marysmith.com. Yep, there you go. And there's a parcel ID, and you can say it's actually oceanfront and not acreage, and you send that to us, and then we'll look into it and follow back up with you. And this could be a name if the name is wrong on there by chance, or if just so anything you see there. And also it's important too, if you want to, you see where you can send a copy to yourself. That kind of lets you know, that gives you that little bit of satisfaction knowing, okay, it got there to the right person. Great.
That's a great little tool to find there at the bottom. And that's on any of the pages?
What's that?
It's really on any of the pages, right? When we, okay.
Yes.
Great. So just this report discrepancy at the end of the page.
Yep.
Nice. Our next question is the appraised value on the website what my home is worth?
It can be. Doesn't mean that it is. There's two values that we put on the property. One is the market value. One is the appraised value or assessed value. What we do not do is we do not do fee simple appraisals on the property. We do not do necessarily what y'all would do, like a comparative market analysis. What we do is called a mass appraisal. And we look at an entire, not just a subdivision necessarily, we'll look at a geographic area. And we might look at the area between 43rd Avenue and 27th Avenue, between 16th Street and 12th Street. Several different communities in there. But we'll find out what the houses have sold for. We'll find out whether the house was concrete block, whether it was stucco, whether it had a pool, and what type of roof, it's in yard, it's paved road, county water, all of that comes in a matrix. And then we come up with basically a price per foot without the pool. And then we'll go through and determine, okay, this is a 1,500 square foot house. This is a 1,700 square foot house. Multiply that times that factor, and we've got a mass appraisal in there. We don't necessarily take into account that you have granite countertops. And as a realtor, you appreciate this. We don't take into account that you laid your own tile, because it's not worth more money because you laid your own tile. So, but we use the mass appraisal method. And so is the appraised value on the website your home's worth? It could be. That doesn't necessarily mean that it is. It could be higher, and it can be lower.
Great. That's great information. The next question that we had submitted was, how soon after I buy a house should I apply for homestead?
You can go online and do it the same day if you want to. The better way of answering this question I think for everybody is when should I have it done by? And the deadline for any of the exemptions is March 1st. It could be an agricultural classification, a homestead exemption, a widowers, blind, total and permanent disability, disabled veterans. That window starts. It'll start on January 1st for when the exemption you'll be able to take advantage of the exemption, but you must have applied by March 1st. And that's the state statute.
Great. March 1st. Keep that in mind. Okay, great. How about this? When I own multiple homes, can I homestead on all of them?
If you want to go to jail, no. No. The penalties for fraudulent homestead are substantial, though. First of all, for the number of years, we figure out what your amount of taxes that you would have paid versus what you did pay, and that difference. And then there is a 50% penalty on that amount. So it's almost like if you should have paid $1,000, the penalty for that's $1,000. It's really expensive, so you don't want to do that. But to answer your question, no, you cannot have more than one homestead.
And what happens if I don't homestead?
Well, if you don't homestead, you're losing out on a lot of the benefits. And those benefits, of course, is the Save Our Homes that I talked about. And I'll go back to that one more time. The benefits of the Save Our Homes is the assessed value of your property, which is about half of what your tax bill is based on. The other portion is the millage rate. But the assessed value can only go up by 3% for the consumer price index, whichever is less. Last year, the consumer price index was 1.9%. This year, it's 2.4%. We get that information from the Department of Revenue, and therefore they tell us which one to use. However, now, if you don't homestead a property, there are some protections that are in place, and that is there's a 10% cap on the assessed values increasing on non-homesteaded properties. So if you have a rental home or if you have a commercial property, that is capped at 10% now, and that was just added, I'm going to say, about 5 years ago.
Great. So that helps on those commercial and rentals and things like that.
Absolutely.
What if I don't agree with the assessment on my home that the county has? Can I challenge the county on the assessment?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And keep in mind now that time period it's for 3 weeks. and it starts whenever the trim notices get mailed. I'm going to mail the trim notices, which the trim notices stand for truth and millage. And what happens there is right now, the governments, the school board, the county, the cities, the mosquito control, they're holding their budget workshops. So they're figuring out what their budgetary needs are for next year, because I've already submitted the values for every piece of property in Indian River County to Tallahassee. And so the Department of Revenue, they're looking it over right now, and we expect to get the seal of approval here shortly on that. I've already sent those figures that I sent to Tallahassee over to the municipalities. So they're having budget workshops right now, and what they're going to do is they'll take that millage rate, and they'll tell us what it is, and we'll combine that with that trim notice that stands for truth and millage, and we'll mail that out to every property owner in Indian River County. You'll know it when you get it, because it'll say this is not a bill. It does not say do not read, because most people throw it away and don't look at it. And then when they get their tax bill in the mail, they get all they're wondering how this happened. And what this is this gives the taxpayer in the county the opportunity to know what the millage rate is. First of all, what their assessment values are, and what the millage rate will be that the municipalities are going to apply to their assessed value, and what the actual tax dollars they're going to pay, because that's how they determine the tax paid or the tax owed is the millage rate times the assessed value. And then on that also will be the date and the time for the public hearing, and as well as the address of the entity that's levying that millage rate, so that if they want to go, not just argue with, come to me and discuss their assessed millage, their assessment, they can also go help the elected officials make good decisions about the millage rate at the public hearing. And by the way, they have to have 2 of them, and they have to be after 5 o'clock. And so they'll be normally they're about 5:01, and they're about a week or 2 weeks apart in the month of September. So when you're going to get your trim notice probably about August 12th this year, and you have 3 weeks to come see me. And then if you don't like it, and you still disagree with it, then on the assessed side of it anyhow, then you have the opportunity to do what they call to file an appeal to the Value Adjustment Board. And so with that said, I think this would be another good time for one of the tutorials, if you want to pull it up and then let everybody kind of see the process about some of the exemptions, and then how to file the appeal.
Alrighty. And the next question they had was, there's a lot of new things on the property appraiser site. What can you tell us about that?
Let's go to the site and we'll talk about it. There's several things that I've enter in, if you can, a property that you may know of that has sold in the past 3 months or something like that. And click on that parcel ID. And if you notice, go to the map over there. Now what we've done is on the maps, we have made it so that we've color coded the sales. So that sale right there, if you'll go over to the sale by the year, and then the red is 2020. That green where you just click that box is 2018 and 19, and then you can go back, and we didn't go back any further than 2016 because of course trying to get you want fresh sales. We don't want to be looking too much back in the market. We want to put information that you find interesting. Another thing that we've done is click on the aerial imagery button right next to the sales by year.
Cool. Yep.
That's that. If you want to, you can go back and look at some of the historical all the way back to before the hurricane. We actually have some of the images of, if you want to see what this area looked like right after, and it kind of gives you the opportunity to get older photographs, specifically if you want to maybe see if a shed has been permitted or something like that. So some people might find that helpful. I'll tell you another thing. Go ahead and click on the parcel ID again down there. Yep. And another thing that we've added, go to sales, the third tab over. Yep. And then you can click on the download right here. at that link, and that'll bring you to the clerk's site where you can get a copy of the deed without actually having to leave the property appraiser's website. And as you know, it's important for you to be able to get a copy of the deed for you to draw up contracts and make sure that the person that's signing the purchase and sale agreements or the listing agreements, in fact, owns the property. And so we just tried to make that as simple as possible. And then there's one more if you want to go to the property tax calculator. Go to probably the home. Yep. And then once you go to home, scroll down to the bottom. Oh, let's see.
There's that one, and I think on the new page too has it.
Yep, yeah, scroll down to there you go, and go to this is the tax. Yep, click on that.
All right.
And so here, this is where you have the opportunity to, if the house, we asked you on step 1, is the house in Vero Beach? Is it in Fellsmere? So go ahead and let's just say it's in Fellsmere. And the reason why is this is the millage rate that the city of Fellsmere has applied to the value of my assessed value of the property. So we're going to ask you if you're going to homestead the property. Let's just go ahead and say yes, and click that homestead. And what that does is that applies the homestead exemption to the property right now. And let's just say that the value, the market value of what you paid for the property, or what you're going to pay for the property, let's just say it's $350,000. And now you calculate that. And if you have a homesteaded property in the city of Fellsmere for $350,000, there's an estimate of what your tax bill will be. This is probably going to be a little on the high side. We kind of did that on purpose because I'd rather it be closer to $6,000, or you think it's going to be closer to $6,000, than for you to be thinking it's closer to $5,000. Whenever we all know that ad valorem tax bill can sometimes has been make or break for a real estate closing. And so to give you an example of when I mentioned about the opportunity to go before these governing boards that put the millage rate on a piece of my assessed values, Fellsmere has the highest millage rate. Property values are lower out there. Let's try Indian River Shores, who has the lowest millage rate in Indian River County, and they have the lowest millage rate. And so let's recalculate this. If you remember, that property was about $6,000 right there earlier. Calculate it now in Indian River Shores on what your tax bill would be. There it is. It's about $2,000 less. Now, of course, here's the problem. What can you find in Indian River Shores for $350,000? So, but that's an example of how important the millage rate is, because it's just not the assessed value of your property that dictates your actual tax bill.
Great. That was a lot of great information. I like that. And that tool is really handy too.
Well, and thank you. We've got more improvements coming, and I won't get into all of them today, but keep in mind that I've been where you are now, out there in I call it the real world, where I'm in the real estate business, and had the opportunity to use many different websites of property.
I think we lost you for a second, but I think you're back. All right. So the next question that they have is, what does my property taxes pay for?
Can you hear me?
Now we can hear you. Yep.
What your property taxes pay for is basically the services that the government provides. Schools, public education, that it can help pay for roads. It pays for fire department, law enforcement. When you dial 911, that person's salary is covered by the taxes that you pay. And so it just provides for the essential services that the governments provide on an annual basis.
Are there other ways to lower my tax bill?
Well, again, you can come in and talk to me about your assessment. You could come in and talk to the governing agencies about the millage rate that I mentioned, and we showed a really good example about how that is done. But also, there's another way, and that is to make sure that you get the exemptions that you're entitled to. There's a bunch of them. I'll give you. There's even somebody that gets called up into the active duty. Let's say they're military, they're in the Army Reserves or Navy Reserves. They get called up into active duty. Had a friend that was called in, it's got to be a certain theater of conflict. It's not, so they were sent to, I don't know, West Africa, some kind, I can't even pronounce the country, but there's like 16 or 17 different active theaters of conflict and for the war on terror, et cetera. And it just so happens that this gentleman was eligible for that discount because he was in one of those theaters of conflict, and he was there for about 180 days. What that means is every day that you're there is a percentage of assessment that you get to reduce your assessed value by. So if you're there half of a year, your assessed values get cut in half. If you're there for 365 days, your assessed value for that year or for the following year is 0. So there are plenty of ways to lower your tax bill. And again, it's get all the exemptions you're entitled to, and to talk to me about your assessed values, but also talk to your governing agencies that leverage that millage rate.
Great. And that leads us in, what does millage mean?
No, it's a factor. It's normally 1/1000th. So it's a dollar per thousand is what it boils down to. And all it is just a factor that gets multiplied by the assessed value that I put on the property to come up with a dollar figure.
Great. And if I find a home to buy that has low taxes, can I keep that low amount? You
can, if you have portability, etc. However, keep in mind, whenever you buy a piece of property, and let's say you buy it this time of year, you are responsible for the taxes for the period of remainder of the year that you own it. But the good thing about it is if that property had been homesteaded for a long time, you're getting the benefits of the former owner's property, low assessed value. That's going to change whenever you file for homestead or in the following year, because it's going to gravitate naturally more closer to the market value, closer to what you paid for it. So that's why you need to take any benefits of the Save Our Homes that you might have accumulated, as well as filing for the homestead exemption, so you can try to keep that low tax amount by reducing the assessed value on my side.
Great. And it looks like our final question would be, what will happen if I cannot pay my taxes on my house?
Great question. If you can't pay your taxes, state statutes have a process. They dictate a process that the taxes get paid so the government can perform the essential services. If you can't pay your taxes and don't pay your taxes by the May 31st, then on June 1st, the tax collector of Indian River County will have an auction to sell what they call tax certificates. And what happens in that, there's investors that will actually pay your taxes for you, and they have an auction, but they're not auctioning. The bid price isn't for what how much of your taxes are going to pay. The bid price is what interest rate are they going to charge you for paying your taxes. So if the highest statutory rate that you can have is 18%. You'll normally only see that on contaminated properties, bankruptcies, problem properties of some kind. And the reason why is by statute, if nobody bids on the interest rate on a piece of property or the tax certificate, the county has to buy it. And so they'll charge 18% interest on it. They don't like to do it, but they have to do it by statute. And what happens is that can happen for 2 years. So on the tax certificate sale. Then in the 3rd year, that's whenever an applicant can file for tax deed. And then that's where you hear, well, I bought this property for the taxes. That means they were at the auction where they filed for a tax deed and they had a tax deed sale. Now, that doesn't mean that all properties are to go just for the taxes. If it's a homesteaded property, then they have to go, the property has to bring a minimum bid of, I believe it's 50% of the market value. So there might only be $7,000 owed on a piece of property, but because it's homesteaded, that those benefits of the homestead even extend over to, if you can't pay your taxes, somebody's bid's got to be higher than just what's owed for taxes. But it is true whenever somebody says, I bought this for taxes, it does happen, and it happens through the tax certificate sales, then followed by the tax deed auction.
Great. Well, you've given us a lot of answers on all these great questions. This has been super helpful. Thank you so much for agreeing to come talk to us on Live with Jennifer Bailey today. I think this was really helpful. Do you have any final closing statement?
I'll say this. Whenever you talked to me about this, I was thinking, I don't know what I'm going to do, but if you want me to, we'll try it. And then, as you know, right up until about 3 minutes before we went on air, we finally got my technological issues worked out. But this has exceeded any of my expectations. I think this is a wonderful venue, format, technology, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. And congratulations on it.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Appreciate it again. And everybody, if you need to reach out to the county property appraisers at the site, it's been scrolling down on the bottom there.
You can give me a call. That's my extension, or my direct line is 226-1480, or you can come in and see us. And if you do, tell them Wesley sent me.
All right, great. Thank you so much. Have a great afternoon, Wesley.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.